Welcome to Prescribing Lifestyle, the podcast that's all about empowering you to live your healthiest, happiest life. I'm your host, Dr. Avi Charlton, and each week we'll dive into the latest research, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you optimize your well-being. From nutrition and fitness to mental health and mindfulness, we'll explore every aspect of lifestyle medicine, giving you the tools you need to make informed decisions and take control of your health. Whether you're looking into preventing disease, managing chronic conditions, or simply elevate your quality of life, Prescribing Lifestyle is here to guide you on your journey to wellness. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to embark on this transformative adventure towards a healthier, happier you. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome to another episode of Prescribing Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I've got a special guest, Tanya Rutherford. She's a midlife transformational coach. I've invited her to talk about midlife, especially for women, whether it's menopause, whether it's midlife. She's here to help support you and transform your journey. The reason why I connected with her is she's hosting a summit next week. So by the time this episode is released, it'll be next week on the 3rd of February. Is that right, Tanya?
That is absolutely right.
So thank you, Tanya, for coming on to the Prescribing Lifestyle.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'll get you to introduce yourself and tell us how you got into journey. Let me introduce her again. She's a Queen of Queen Bee. Her website is called Queen Bee, B-E, and you can check her out on queenbee.com.au, as in not the bumblebee, but B-E. All right. Yeah, tell us about yourself, Tanya.
It's a bit of a mouthful, I know. So how did I get to be involved in this space? I guess my long journey has been through business, then more into the professional development coaching space. I then did a bit of a detour into higher education, looking at student development as well as staff development. And coming out of that, in 2023, I was feeling a bit frustrated with a lot of the education system. So I took a bit of a step back and I really looked at what was important to me and where did I really want to focus my energy? What gave me joy? And what really came back to me was how much I love helping women to really realize their potential and to help them bring out their best. Whether that has been through education, whether that's been through professional development. And I was kind of thinking around that. And at the same time, I've also been on my own perimenopause journey for quite a long time now. And kind of it started morphing more into the menopause for a while. And that's why I've sort of been working on our Navigating the Change online menopause summit, because I believe that for us to move forward into our next best life, we need to know what's going on within us. Now, a lot of us do have moderate to severe menopause symptoms. I think it's about 80% of all women.
Wow. Okay.
But even for those who don't, like that 20%, they're still going through a midlife transition. And often because they don't go through that pretty tumultuous time, is that they can often discount what's going on in their bodies. So they're not realizing that actually, you know what, now is when we have to take action to make sure that our health in the next 10, 20, 30 years is actually good. Whether that's our bone health, whether that is our, our digestive health, whether that is our mental health, our emotional health, any of those things. And of course, also like our relationships. this is a time when a lot of women find their marriages breaking up because there's so much going on and they're not the same person when that they might have got married or they might have met their partner.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on. So I really wanted to make sure that we were having that conversation in an informed way, and acknowledging that it's more than just a medical experience or an age. It can happen at any time after puberty, in theory, when we run out of eggs.
Yeah.
And I know I had a girlfriend who went through it at 30.
Wow.
And yeah, I know for a lot of us that do experience symptoms, we're actually starting to see those symptoms cropping up in our late 30s onwards. Myself, my first symptom was severe anxiety. I'd never had it before. It sort of triggered off when I was, I think it was about the time when I became pregnant with my second child. And it's only just gone away late last year when I actually started on menopause hormone therapy. And to give you an indication, that daughter is now 10 years old.
Okay.
So it's been a long journey.
Yeah. Wow.
But often the things that we experience early on, they're not the things that people are commonly associating. It's not the hot flushes, that often happens much later. It's the anxiety, it's the depression, it's the disturbed sleep. Now, if you got young kids like I did, you just assume that's about the kids, but obviously it was much more complicated. Your ability to cope with things, stress becomes much harder to manage, which is a double problem, because when you have a lot of stress, it makes your symptoms worse, which makes you more stressed. And it's a bit like sleep. You start not having sleep and then you can't sleep and you're too tired and everything gets worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's all those things. And the other thing that really came out to me, and for those of your listeners who do join us for the summit, I talk about this in my little introduction, and that is I lost my cousin at age of 44 to what I believe is menopause-related suicide.
Oh, no.
And it very much, she had bipolar. And one of the things that we know now, which back then, this was 12 years ago, they didn't really know, and a lot of our specialists probably still don't know, that menopause affects existing conditions, particularly neurological.
Oh, okay.
And so what might have been okay before gets worse, and our medications aren't as effective. Because our whole system is just changing so much. And for her, she was feeling that her brain wasn't functioning very well anymore. Common symptom of brain fog. And her specialist pretty much said, well, there's nothing much I can do. This is the best it's going to get. So, whilst we don't hear many of those stories, there's actually, there are enough occurrences that we should be aware that suicide is one of those things that can be a much higher risk. Certainly our higher suicide rates for women are in that menopause age bracket of 40 to 45, 45 to 50.
Wow, that is amazing. Did you see that coming at all, that your cousin was suffering from all these things?
Well, she was living in the UK at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I was over here in Australia. And back then, 12 years ago, I'd never even heard of perimenopause. Like, I didn't know about it until I was probably a similar age, when a friend of mine said, oh, I think you might have perimenopause. I'm like, what the hell is that? I've never heard of it. And my doctor hadn't seemed to have heard of it either. So, yeah.
Okay. So for you, you had anxiety when you had a young child, and then did you you got better, I suppose, and you eventually got over it, or what happened with you?
Well, I did I did eventually go and see my doctor about it. Now, in the meantime, it built up and built up and built up and built up until it kind of like just sort of overflowed and almost exploded on a poor friend of mine who just heard me go, ah. But that was enough. Letting go of all that was enough for me to step out of that and see that I needed to get some help.
Yeah.
When I went and saw my doctor, there was never any mention of the hormonal perspective because they don't know about that. They're not trained in that.
Yeah.
I was quite lucky. My doctor did not put me on an SSRI or anything really significant. He gave me serotonin boosters, and that was enough to help me manage it. Like I could always feel it, like it was almost like this weight in the back of my mind, and I could sense it there, and I could see the thoughts coming. They often happened because my anxiety was all around my children and bad things happening to them. And I'd come past the local school, and that was almost like a trigger space for me. I could feel thoughts coming, and I would just have to calm and think about something else and say, no, we're not going down that track. And it wasn't until I started taking the hormone therapy, and a couple of months in, I just felt that pressure lift.
So the hormone therapy helped you, was it?
Okay. Because it was hormone related anxiety. Now, not all anxieties are, but for many of us, if we do get it in this phase of our lives, it often is. I believe that there is a big push by some experts in the menopause field, in the psychiatry area and other areas, to actually have MHT as one of the first steps in terms of dealing with anxiety and depression in mature age women, is to actually say, okay, well, this is the first thing to try, not the last thing you try. Oh, so good. We're starting to get research, but there wasn't any research really. I say that there was obviously some early stuff, because I know when my grandma was, she would have been about 30, I think, when she was 30, 35, when she had a hysterectomy, and that was around 1950, and it was really early days, and she had hormone therapy then. Back then it was derived from horse's urine, pregnant mare's urine.
Yes, that's right.
And then, so it's, those things have been around for a while, but the knowledge and the research around women's health hasn't been. It was only in the 1990s that it was actually required that medications that involve, like, were to be used for women, had to involve research being tested on women.
Oh, okay.
So before that, and for a lot of the medications that we're commonly given that were tested pre that time, they were only tested on men. And so we're given like the equivalent dosage of a 70 kilogram white male, because that was what we were equated to. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work if you're a female. It doesn't work if you're a different racial profile. There's all those different things.
That's it. Traditionally, most research is done with men, and women haven't been involved with the research. And
even when they did,
sorry, you
I was
go.
going to say, even when they do research on rats, it's only recently they had to use female rats, because before then the hormones of female rats were too complicated.
Well, I actually remember my mum had hormone replacement, and she's in her 80s now, so it would have been the 1980s or that she had hormone replacement. And then all of a sudden the Women's Health Initiative came, and the studies came, and then the hormone HRT has gone off. And then me in the medical school never really got taught about hormone replacement. And so there's a whole group of doctors, a whole cohort that was never taught how to prescribe hormone replacement therapy. And now it's recently really come popular again that we've got all these newer menopause hormone therapy, which is are identical, much less risk, not horse urine anymore, and much safer than it used to be. So yeah, rapidly trying to
Yeah.
learn
And,
about
and
how
I think,
to, yep,
yeah, and it is hard, and I think even now, I don't think that our medical practitioners get enough training on that. Like it's, maybe it's a couple of days out of a,
mm,
how many years degree that you're doing. And, so if we're not, if the educators aren't providing that information,
mm,
and the drug companies may or may not want to because it kind of probably cuts down on their profit,
yeah,
where do we get that information from? How do we get our medical
yes,
practitioners educated? And then how do we get our communities and our, well, women to start with, but everyone more
that's
aware of
right.
what's going on so we can support each other?
Yeah, yeah. And midlife and menopause is sort of like a taboo area that we don't like to talk about still. So the women's don't want to bring it up and they just keep going. They've got kids to look after, teens and maybe elderly parents to just keep going and working.
There's so much. And it's funny. When I was growing up, so I've just turned 50, I was born in 1975. But when I
Okay,
was growing up, the Golden Girls were on TV and they were in their early 50s and they were, one of them went through menopause and
okay.
but, it was like instant. It was like, oh, she didn't get her period. She thought she was pregnant. Oh, she's just gone over to menopause.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, but they always looked old.
Oh,
50
yeah.
looked old back then, whereas
Yeah.
50 doesn't look like that. It's 50 is Sex in the City now.
Yeah,
It's not the same look.
that's
And so
right.
I think for many of us, we associated menopause with this old woman,
Yeah.
and we're not old women. If particularly if you can start in your 30s, we need to be having these conversations so much earlier
Mm,
because it actually affects us a lot earlier than we think.
amazing. Yeah. I'm turning 50 later this year. I certainly don't feel old and I still want to thrive. I've got so much things I want to do and I feel like I've got so much to live for.
Absolutely. I think I was excited about turning 50, and I know a lot of
Yeah.
women who are, because it's kind of like, well, it's almost like this coming of age. And
Yeah,
you're kind of like,
yeah.
wow, I'm here. It feels weird because I don't feel like I'm this old 50.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? I actually feel like I'm ready to do some stuff that I'm really excited about doing. And, I've still got kids at home, so I'm still a mom, and
Yeah.
my parents are also 80.
Okay.
So yeah, you are kind of caught in the middle with
Yes.
a lot of things, but you know, I think the more we're able to um, support each other,
Yeah.
um, and we do that by understanding that all of us are different, and
Hmm.
our experience with menopause can be polar opposites, and that doesn't
Mm,
mean that anyone is right or wrong,
yeah.
um, but just that we are all different. And once we accept that and we're able to be supportive and meet each other where we are at, I
Yes,
think
absolutely.
I think it's just going to be such a better place for all of us.
Yes, yes. So what does Queen Bee do? What do you do for your followers or members or what what can you offer to people?
Yeah, so at the moment, what we have is some free menopause uh, resources,
Okay.
and part of that, as I mentioned at the start, is really about giving us that sort of um, that well-being level that we can then work from to then decide what we would like to do with our lives. So that's our free element, and then obviously we've got our summit coming up, um, and I guess the next stage of what we do is then um, coaching, and we're going to have some courses coming up this year as well, all around that, taking your life to the next level. So looking at, okay, well, what does bring me joy?
Hmm.
Where is the meaning, or what has meaning to me? Where do I want to contribute
Hmm.
in this life? And then kind of a process of both exploring that, but then working out that pathway. So what's holding me back? Where do I need to give myself permission? You know, what am I going to need to sort of like explore or change or adapt to make these kind of things possible? So it's a bit of, I guess it's a very personal journey for each person, but it is all about helping them to really find that life that they want, because, you know, we're all still young. We've got at least another, I don't know, 40, 50 years in it.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
days
50.
I'm flat out. Some days I'm going, oh, I might make it to the end of the week. But, you know, with our health and well-being options these days, and definitely I think when we are more aware of how we look after ourselves and that nutritional element, particularly, I think, you know, we didn't have that in past generations. I think we're really fortunate now that we have so much of that non-medical awareness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I like to talk about.
Yeah, it's not about the drugs. It's about what are we changing our lives, and what have we got available? And I think that's what I get really excited about the work that you do,
Thank you.
Avi. I think there's so much potential to really start thinking about what that means for each of us, and how do we make that into a reality? Like, you know, we are time poor and we've got a lot of things that we're doing, and we may not have the headspace to think about those things ourselves. So how do we actually make it as simple as possible for us to be as healthy and as happy as possible?
Yeah, great. So you help women one-on-one coaching as well on all these lifestyle pillars. That's amazing. Yeah, so I like to talk about nutrition and strength training and stress management and sleep prioritization. And then I do think about hormones as well. So some women do have hormones, and it's not all or nothing. So medication certainly has its place, but I like to talk about all the lifestyle things as well.
Yeah, and I think lifestyle, once we can take the pressure and the unknown out of it, we can make it really easy and enjoyable. I think that's the thing. We don't want it to be, and I know you're very much in this space, it's not about another diet or another this or another that. It's about really understanding and just embracing it. You know, I've started making lots of small changes over the last 12 months, like, you know, adding chickpeas to curries and lentils to bolognese sauce, and, you know, gone back to putting sneaky veg in everything. But, you know, it's a lot of it is those smaller changes, and thinking about, you know, I was having a conversation today with someone where we're talking about portions. So when we have husbands who eat large amounts and they pick up meals, and it's like they give us the same amount, and it's like, I actually don't need that much. I'm okay with less because my body doesn't need that. And I think sometimes giving ourselves a bit of permission to just say, no, it's okay.
Yeah. Oh, good. Tell us about the summit, which is like the 3rd of February. Is that right? It's only happening very soon.
It is. I am super excited. I've been working on this actively working on it since about October. And before then, it was very much in the brainchild state. So we've actually opened up our community. So we have a pop-up community as well. We've already opened that up. And we've got our speaker session starting next week on the 3rd, from the 3rd to the 6th. Now, that is our free week. So we want to make sure that menopause resources are accessible for everyone, regardless of income and financial pressure, particularly in this day and age. And then we also have our live workshops in the following 2 weeks. So each day from the 10th to the 21st, we have a different workshop, and they're live, so you can join in. and they'll also be recorded for those who can't make it live. But they're only available until the 28th of February.
Okay.
So one of the reasons is, and this is coming back to my learning background, is that if you don't have a deadline, you tend to not do it. So
that's right.
That's the motivator. We want to give people a bit of time because we know life happens.
Okay.
But yeah, we're covering all sorts of topics. We've got our, obviously the medical perspective. We have Dr. Kelly Teagle talking to us about that and about MHT. We've got the psychological perspective. We've got relationships. We've got your sexual self, because for many of us, things are changing, particularly if sex is becoming more uncomfortable.
Yes.
So thinking about things in different ways. Nutrition, obviously, big one. We've also got the emotional resilience and managing that side of things. It's a really diverse program, and we've got some amazing speakers. And of course, we've also got a really great swag bag, virtual swag bag. So we've got where we can bring, because obviously with one of these summits is we're limited to how many people we can celebrate and share their work, because we've only got so many sessions that we can fit in. But by having something where people can learn more about other providers and what else is available, and just some nice things like, there's one of our swag offers is cotton pajamas that are just super comfy, because we want to sleep comfy. Someone else has a range of perfumes that are made from essential oils and that are also low allergens. So if you've got sensitive skin, that's an option. So we've got all sorts of things.
Oh, wow.
Because we want women to really not just understand their health and well-being, but to also feel like they can celebrate who they are and really enjoy this time of their lives.
Great. So it's free to join the summit and it's free to go to the workshop. Is that what you're saying?
So the first week, the 3rd to the 6th, is free, as is the pop-up community and the swag. The workshops themselves are paid because we need to be able to fund the summit somehow. And we also have a VIP option for people who would like to access the summit on an ongoing basis. So if they want to have it beyond the 21st of February, it's $50. Like, nothing is excessive. It is about making it as affordable and no excuses. That's what we're going for. No excuses why you can't look after yourself.
Yeah, $50 is next to nothing. You might as well just pay, and you can slowly digest the material.
Yeah.
And everything will be recorded.
Yep. Everything's recorded because, there is no one best time. We're trying to cover all of Australia from the East Coast to West Coast. And, that's time differences, that's school, that's work, that's, whatever else you might be doing.
I just like to listen to things when I'm going for a walk or cooking dinner. So all those times that I can have a bit of time on my own.
Yeah, and so we're actually hosting it in the platform we use for our coaching and for our courses, which is Wisdom. I was originally thinking of doing our community space on Facebook, but with their more recent policy changes and CEO statements, it really didn't feel like it was a safe place for women to be.
I did see your email on that. I didn't.
Yes. Yep. So I decided that we'd move it into our in-house platform, which is actually created by a Melbourne woman, Nikki Kelly. So it's an Australian platform, and it's just really great. So I get the bonus of supporting local businesses as well.
Oh, good. So can people just sign up on your website? I'm looking at your website, queenbe.com.au.
So if people just go to, sorry, if people just go to queenbe.com.au/summit 2025, and that will give them the details of the summit, the links to register, and if they look into the summit speakers, they'll also get the program guide as well.
Amazing. That's great. I'm looking forward to this. I like to slowly listen. Maybe I'll pay the $50 so I can take my time.
You're most welcome to. And also at the moment, up until the end of this week, we do have our workshop bundle as well. So you can get access to all 10 days of workshops for $275.
Amazing.
$50 each. So
Great.
There you go.
Thank
Double
you.
bonus.
I managed to get myself into your swag bag, so I've got some offers there too. Hopefully some people can take it up.
No, it sounds great, and I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to work with so many amazing people. It's just been really great.
Yeah, that's great work. All right, so just to recap, so people can find you queenbe.com.au.
Yep.
What about social media? Are you on social media?
On Facebook, I'm Queen BE Menopause, and on Instagram, which I have to confess, I really struggle to get my head around, but I'm pretty sure it's queenbe.com.au.
Okay,
as our handle on that.
Sure.
I am also on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah. And how do people find you on LinkedIn?
I have no idea, but if they look for me, Tanya Rutherford, they will find me and Queen B.
I'll put all the links into the show notes. Great. All right. Have you got any last message for my listeners, Tanya?
Look, I think the big thing is listen to your body. You are the expert in yourself. And if something doesn't feel right, then definitely look into it. And if the advice that you're getting from your medical practitioner at whatever level, if that doesn't feel like it's right for you, then definitely look for another opinion. Ask around, because you know that you are the expert in you.
Yep.
No one else is.
Amazing. That's it. I totally support all that message. Totally agree with you, Tanya. Great.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on to the Prescribing Lifestyle podcast. And just so you know, this is Navigating the Change online perimenopause, peri/menopause summit on the 3rd of Feb to 6th of the Feb, and workshops on the 10th of February to 21st of February. So go to queenbe.com.au, and Tanya will have lots and lots of information, recordings and group and coaching for all of you. And the summit is free, or unless you want to sign up for the extended listening, then you can do that for $50, terribly cheap.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks to the listeners for listening to the Prescribing Lifestyle podcast. Until next time, we'll bring in another fantastic guest. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prescribing Lifestyle podcast. Before we wrap up, I have an exciting news to share. I have a new ebook called Low Carb Made Easy. It's now available. This guide is perfect for anyone looking to dive into the low carb lifestyle. Inside, you'll find the basic theory behind low carb eating, a detailed food list, practical meal plan, and a variety of delicious recipes. It's designed to make a journey to better health easier, simpler, and enjoyable. For those who prefer a hard copy, head over to my website and register your interest using the link provided. My website is www.mlcclinic.com.au. Head to online store. Remember, the information shared in this podcast, it's for educational purposes only and not proper medical advice. Always consult your medical professional before making any changes to your lifestyle and diet, or you can come and see me in Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media. Your feedback will help us improve and reach more listeners. Lastly, if you found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends and family. Together, we can make a positive impact to our health and our communities. Thanks again for listening, and as always, stay healthy and happy. Until next time.